Good morning, Jim Laird joining you live from Diriamo, Nicaragua. Let's get us going on Instagram. Hope you're doing well today. Beautiful day here, as always. Had some rain last night, which is really, really weird. Rain at this time of year. Hello, everyone on Instagram. Rain at this time of year is very rare, so it was a nice little break. It's nice and cool this morning. It was nice and cool last night. So let's jump right into the topic. Are you my typical client? So over the last like 30 years of working with people, I tend to attract, and even in Dr. Stillman's practice, when I was working with him, um, highly successful, highly driven people tend to lean a little bit towards the ladies for some reason. Um, I've had a lot of male clients as well, and they're usually successful business owners, people that have worked really hard for a long time, and then all of a sudden they hit a wall, and what they were doing just isn't working anymore. They're not happy with their body composition. They're not happy with their energy levels. A lot of them have resorted to TRT or have resorted to thyroid medication or whatever, and they're still not in a good place. Peptides now is the new big thing. And I've seen tons of people that are on peptides or on HRT, and they're still not in a good place. A lot of them, the mindset of more work is going to basically give me the results that I want. A lot of them are already training. Many of the women are running marathons, or they're doing spinning classes, or I had one lady that was training twice a day. She had 3 jobs. So this, I think part of the reason I attract this type of client is because I was like that for a long time. I got addicted to always being on, always being like busy, always being active. I had a hard time sitting quietly. I had a hard time relaxing. Once you get addicted to that kind of like do more mentality, it's really easy to fall into. And then you start, stimulants, coffee. You want to, it feels good, like cortisol, adrenaline rush, that feels good, but you can't live in that state constantly. And a lot of people get stuck in that state and they have a really hard time turning it off. And a lot of the clients that I have, men and women, if I told them, hey, that the key to what you wanted to do was to do a Tough Mudder or to like do spinning classes or add more activity, they dive right into it. Most of the people that I work with, a lot of it is teaching them how to, one, let's adjust your training to actually reach your goals. Like particularly with women, if body composition is a goal and feeling better overall, it's reducing the overall volume of training, and then it's basically more strength-based training, right? That's going to give them the body composition change that they want. It's also going to give them the energy that they want, because we need to teach them to start. But for me, sitting quietly and learning how to relax and shut off was very difficult. It took me a long time to do that. And it's the same thing for my clients. They once you start getting them walking outside, once you start getting them maybe doing a non-sleep deep rest or taking more time for them, because a lot of the ladies I work with are, they're a mother, they have a career, usually have a husband. They've got all this stuff going on, pulling them in all sorts of different directions. So I have to convince them to put the oxygen mask on themselves first before they give to everyone else, right? So getting them to slow down and relax. And as soon as they start feeling better, they usually take right off like a rocket ship again and get themselves in trouble. So a lot of this is a constant re-education. Good morning, Dan. How are you? A lot of this is constant reinforcement, constant re-education, changing the mindset to, yes, we want to go hard, but the harder we go, the harder we need to rest. So it's kind of like my motorcycle. I just took it into the shop yesterday. You can see it in the background. I ride my motorcycle hard. It's a 1-cylinder engine. It's got a lot of power, but I drive it hard. So I get the oil change every 1,000 kilometers. I do the maintenance. I'm obsessive with the maintenance. I found myself a good mechanic here finally. So if you want to push performance, okay, and I tell people, if you want longevity, you flirt with performance, you don't marry it. But if you want to push hard in your job, in your life in general, especially as you get older, you have to put more effort into the turning off part. And so educating people on, it's really a hard mindset for people that are overachievers, type A people, to really learn, okay, I really need to focus on the other hours that I'm outside the gym. And of course, there's a big push today, like, exercise makes up for a lack of sleep. And I would agree, being active is important. But most of the people that I train, have worked with in the last, 30 years, are all already exercising. They're not getting the results that they like. And when you start getting them to, focus on sleep and getting outside, all of a sudden they don't, these big you get them eating, women in particular, you get them eating more real food and sitting down and chewing their food and eating more protein. All of a sudden, these ravenous cravings start going away. And if you're using intensity like spinning or HIIT classes all the time, that's just going to drive your appetite through the ceiling. And then what happens is if you undereat and you train hard for long periods of time, your body's going to want to go in the other direction. So you got to learn how to work with your body and not against it. And we've got 70% of people in the US are obese. And there's this huge obsession that exercise is the answer, that exercise is the thing that's lacking. And I tend to agree with that. People are not, they don't move around enough. Like, I think the low level activity is key to regulation of appetite, particularly getting outside. But you can't out-train a horrible lifestyle. Most people can't. There's few people that can, like your Michael Jordans and people like that, your Charles Barkleys, your, people like that, high-level performers. There's people that are outliers, but you can't really base your life on an outlier. So we've got to teach people to do more self-care. And we've got all these people that are sedentary that aren't doing much. Those people usually fail too, because they get thrown into they go into a gym and they get thrown into very advanced things very quickly. They don't start slowing up. That's a whole nother topic for another show, but they start off too fast and it's not sustainable for them. So we want to build habits, but the most challenging client is not the lazy person. The lazy person, you can give them a little bit, and they'll be like, oh, this wasn't that bad. I'm going to do a little bit more. But the highly driven person, the high performers, and it's like, hey, you've done enough for today. Go home and rest. You need to learn how to sit still. You need to learn how to be calm and quiet. And if you're, and this is where the individual working with me in a group or interacting with me on a regular basis, getting to know you, getting to know your situation, because there's no real one size fits all for everybody. How much time do you have to train? What's your job like? These are all things that we work through in like a group setting. So I'd love to get to know you better. You can go to vitalitybrotherhood.com, join the free group. You can go to vitalitysisterhood.com, join the free group as well. There's also, I have a mini course that I've created. I'm new at all this internet stuff, so I've been coaching for a long time, but this is really the only time I've ever had to really self-promote. When I was working in person, I didn't really have to do that. My clients did that for me. Virtually, it's a little different. It's a lot different animal, which I'm learning. So thank you for your patience. So I have a course. It's based on why you're not getting results or not getting results. Just type in if you're on, depending on what platform you're on, there should be links below, but you can go to Vitality Brotherhood /results, and you will you'll be invited to join the free course. Just put your email in, and you have access to it. So I'd love to get you in there, but get into the group, start interacting with me, and obviously, if you're serious about making a serious change, you need some guidance. Just go to vitalitybrotherhood.com, click the coaching button above, and we can set up a call and we can talk about what, a program that's best for you. I got cut off yesterday on the live, and I went through like some of the things that I was very grateful for. One of them was like having a very active childhood, playing a lot of sports. The next one was like being able to tinker with things. So, I've had to fix my bike on the side of the road a couple times. Like taking apart lawnmower engines and things like that. And I believe the third was bouncing in nightclubs, how it helped me, even though it wasn't good for my overall health, due to not, staying up late at night. But it was good for the fact that I learned how to read body language. So being in a country where I don't necessarily speak the language well, I am learning, but it's really helpful to be able to read body language. I was getting into, like, if you were considering I know this is a little off topic, but if you're considering moving to somewhere like a developing country like Nicaragua in the tropics, some of the things that you might not think about, either if you're going to come here for a couple months, or if you're going to buy a place in a place like Nicaragua, or Belize or Mexico or any of these places. There's some things you have to consider. And one of them is you have to have, like where I live, you have to have full-time staff. Like you literally do. Luckily, it's very reasonable. There's plenty of people willing to work. It might take you a little while to find the right person, but like my cleaning lady, and I'm not the most cleanly person. I have a hard time with that. That's something I'm challenged by. So luckily I'm here. I can hire somebody to help me with that. But she literally wipes down the entire house, all the walls, pulls all the cabinets out, all the drawers once a week, and literally like cleans everything top to bottom with like bleach and, because mold grows here, critters, scorpions, snakes, tarantulas. She cleans every week. Yesterday, she came running out with a drawer that had about, I don't know, probably 30 or 40,000 ants in it. They had set up a nest in a week in a drawer that had papers in it. There was no food in the drawer, nothing. That's something that's interesting too. If you drop like a piece of food on the ground, you leave it, you're going to have a million ants in there in like an hour. I don't know how they do it, but they figure out like there's food and they'll come through. Like this house is very nice, but it's not sealed. Part of the reason it's not sealed is because here the electric grid is not really set up to run continuous air conditioning all the time. So you don't have this climate controlled house. I get a lot of breeze. I've got screens on the windows. I leave everything open. I have a fan at night. It works well. I'm getting used to it. I'm getting more adapted to it. But you're not going to really, unless you live in a big city like Managua, you're not going to be able to run air conditioning all the time. And it is fairly expensive for here, not for the US, but electricity is fairly expensive. But what happens is a lot of times the homes aren't set up to run an air conditioner full time. So one, it gets very expensive. And two, the grid just isn't made for that kind of draw. I have to be careful how many appliances I put on. So if you are going to come down here and you're going to buy a house or you're going to stay somewhere, particularly if you buy a place and then you're going back and forth, you're going to have somebody come in and clean the house, even when you're not there. My gardener, he literally keeps everything mowed because you want to have no grass, like as short as possible, because if there's tons of brush and grass, you're going to attract like scorpions and you're going to have snakes and all those things. So we keep everything cut, and I don't have time to do that. So if you are considering moving to like a developing country or something like that, you're going to have to find staff unless you have nothing but free time to spend all day cleaning. Literally everything needs to be swept every day. Everything needs to be washed down, a couple times a week to keep, especially in the rainy season. That's when critters tend to move into places when everything's wet. They tend to want to go into dry places, and they will find a way to get into your house, no matter how well it's made. So there's just a few things. But to sum it up, if you're a hard charging person, doing more work isn't necessarily the answer. And that's what I'm really good at, is helping people figure out. And that's where things like Oura Ring data, HRV, resting heart rate, is your body actually adapting in a positive way? Are you driving the kind of adaptations that you want and that are actually going to give you what you want in your life? So, talking with you and going over this stuff and figuring out the things. I always tell people what happens in the gym is important, but it's not as important as what happens outside the gym. And I think the reason why most Americans are in a really bad place is that, one, they're not exercising. I think exercise is important. Getting more active would help, but being indoors all day, living an indoor life, eating highly processed food, it just turns you into a human vacuum cleaner. Then your sleep gets disrupted and then everything goes to hell. So, once your circadian rhythm is broken, then you start medicating with the screen, then you start medicating with caffeine, you start, taking stuff to try and make you feel better, when really the answer is getting outside, it's walking, it's being active, and then replacing, all those highly processed foods with more nutritional, real food, essentially, as opposed to processed stuff. And then all of a sudden it just becomes this snowball of like, okay, your sleep improves, your energy improves, you get outside more, you start feeling better, you start building more muscle mass, your digestion improves, your hormone profile improves, all these things improve because of all these daily habits that you're building. And then all of a sudden you start dropping, sizes, your body composition changes, you build muscle mass, and it just kind of snowballs over time. And the exercise actually becomes an enhancer, as opposed to a lot of people that are trying to burn it off or change their body composition through exercise. It turns into like even more overeating, more exhaustion, because they're not taking care of their vehicle. It'd be kind of like, if my bike was making funny noises, the answer is not to drive it harder. The answer is to take it to a shop. If your car is vibrating, driving it harder is not the answer. Taking it to the mechanic, getting the wheels aligned. And so making sure that you're doing the things you need to do to take care of yourself so you can push yourself from time to time when you need to. The show is sponsored by Faro. You can go to faro.shop and use the code discount code Jim15 to get a discount. Faro is my friend Charles Mayfield's company. It's a lard-based skincare company. Go ahead and type in lard in ChatGPT. Is lard good for the skin? And you're going to see how beneficial it is. You only need to use a tiny bit. I mainly use it on my feet. It's incredibly effective for your skin. So give that a try. Check it out. Support the show. I'd be grateful. Have yourself a great day. Make sure you get outside today, especially, if you're having to be indoors all week, like say you got a job where you can only bounce outside a couple times a week. Make sure your weekend, you spend it doing outdoor activities. Make sure you're outside on the weekends and get as much outdoor time as you can on the weekends. And then during the week, if you have to be inside more, but little things like cracking windows, little things like taking, sun breaks, getting up and moving around, these things all add up over time. So have yourself a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in one of the groups, and we will see you again tomorrow at this time.